Hello. From over 500 original entries, we're down to the last 25 in the BBC Young Musician competition. That's just 5 players in each of the 5 categories: keyboard, percussion, strings, brass and woodwind. Every evening this week here in Bristol, one winner will emerge from each of the classes, and he or she will go on to take part in Sunday's final concert, and that's in the magnificent new Waterfront Hall in Belfast. As ever, Young Musician events are supported by Lloyds Bank. We start with the keyboard final. Tonight's competitors are Nathan Williamson from Southwold in Suffolk, Helen Reid from Leeds, Nicholas Hagan, who lives and studies in London, Alison Farr, whose home is in Bournemouth, and Ron Abramsky of South Knighton in Leicestershire. The conductor, Charles Hazelwood, will be with us throughout the week, meeting the competitors and hearing them play. All the 1998 Young Musicians finals will be taking place here in the Victoria Rooms at Bristol University. The task of finding a winner for the first of those finals for keyboard players falls to our jury of 3 outstanding pianists: Vanessa Latarche, Professor of Piano at the Royal Academy of Music; Andrew Ball, specially noted for his performances of contemporary piano music; and a famous soloist who was himself a remarkable young musician in his time. He gave his first recital at the age of 9, the pianist John Lill.
I'm playing Le Baiser de l'Enfant Jésus, which means the kiss of the Christ child. The wonderful way to start off a program, just walk on and play these very, very soft chords, a very still atmosphere. To begin with, it's a very still piece. It depicts sleep with Jesus, and a very, very intimate atmosphere is created, and it's a very, very beautiful piece.
Well, you're playing music by Messiaen, one of the great composers of the 20th century. What was it that drew you to his music?
I like very much to have music that's very often very still and quiet, and just a thought that might be captured maybe just by one note or two notes on the music.
Is it important to have a deep understanding of some of Messiaen's burning spirituality?
Oh, absolutely, no question about it at all. And also the situation he was in when he wrote the piece, which is just after he'd come out of a prisoner of war camp in the Second World War, where he'd probably been treated very badly, and may well have considered he wouldn't come out at all. And the fact that he's just come out, it just seems like a huge hymn of praise just for life in itself. The build-up to the climax of the kiss, when he describes receiving communion like a kiss from the child Jesus, and the tremendous religious ecstasy he puts over is very wonderful indeed.
But you're also playing some Rachmaninoff in the programme. How do you feel that relates to Messiaen?
It's a great contrast to show a different sort of passion. The Messiaen is a sort of awe and love of God. It's a very religious piece, and the Rachmaninoff is really wearing your heart on your sleeve.
John, the Messiaen is a piece which, demands quite considerable control and poise, particularly at the opening. Was it the kind of start that grabbed your attention right from the beginning, as much as perhaps,
Yes.
A more flamboyant piece?
It did. I think it's a very, very good choice. I thought the programme was very well chosen in general. It's a very difficult thing to start with because it requires enormous control with those pianissimo textures, and there was some exquisite shading and lovely long lines. Beautiful legato playing too, very smooth right-hand delivery of that. I preferred the Messiaen to the Rachmaninoff, I must say. I would have just wished for a larger dynamic range. I felt that in the bigger sections he could have used more shoulder weight, more arm weight, not just fingers. But he's obviously extremely accomplished and very impressive.
Vanessa, the impulse for the Messiaen comes from somebody who is a deeply spiritual, religious man. Did that come across to you?
It certainly did, Stephanie. I felt right from the opening he took his time, as if searching for divine inspiration. It took quite a time before he started, which is needed. And then right from the outset, it was evident that he was thinking in that way. I felt he could perhaps have made a little bit more of the sonority, the rainbow sonorities, and even more ecstatic climax, but it was really a superb performance.
It takes a very long time to really decide how to play something, but you need to be aware of what's in the music and then show everyone else. Fantasia is a particularly happy and lively piece. Plenty of dramatic harmonic changes which are sprung upon audience and performer. I'm constantly trying to improve and trying to understand music for myself. I mean, a piece like the Haydn isn't a matter of weeks, it's a long time, and I'm sure after this performance I'll come back to it at some later date and think completely different.
Ron, you're playing the second ballade. It's a very, very demanding piece. What draws you to Liszt?
I think one of the main things that struck me with the Liszt Ballade was its epic scale. And, you know, within the piece, I mean, there's dramatic passages, sort of epic passages, there's plenty of passion. And it's a very dark piece, and I find this particularly appealing. The ballad in particular is very narrative. I mean, it has been said that it's been inspired by the Greek myth of Hera and Leandra. It's always very nice to play a piece that's sort of inspired by such great thoughts.
Andrew, what was your impression of the performance that you've just heard?
What did strike me in his programme was how much he settled, and he played better as it went on. They're not professional, of course, and this is fantastic pressure to make your mark of your musical personality in just 20 minutes. I thought he showed a lot of courage in persevering and really finding himself increasingly in the list. And as the list went on, I've followed the score less and less and found myself sitting back and enjoying it more and more.
Vanessa, some people have strong ideas about how to perform late 18th century music. What do you look for in a performance of Haydn?
Well, in a performance of Haydn, such as this piece, one would want really humour, capriciousness, also clear, articulated scales, arpeggios, which is very difficult to do, especially at the beginning of a programme and especially under these testing circumstances. My heart was there for him. But I felt that he really did capture it as he went through. He relaxed, and I liked very much his sense of involvement. He's a real individual player, and some of his colouring was unusual, but made us listen, made us laugh, made us really drew us in as an audience. So I'm very taken with this young man.
I always like to find out as much as I can about the composer when he wrote the piece. I often really feel like I'd like to stand up and say to the audience, this is what the piece is about. I try and communicate that in the music. I'm doing a course in German and music jointly, and at the moment they're moving very closely, which is very helpful for me because the German, we're studying a lot of 20th century literature, which obviously complements the 20th century music that I've been studying. We've been studying the works of Thomas Mann and Franz Kafka, and for me I'm thinking about these works while I'm playing music like the Berg Sonata. The Berg Sonata really comes alive when you go away and study it. I mean, it puts a whole new light on the piece when you know that Berg wrote this after the failure of a passionate love affair and after trying to commit suicide after the death of his idol, Hugo Wolf. It puts a whole new light on how you approach the piece.
would you say is the greatest technical demand of the Chopin?
I think it's it's maintaining the tension. I feel it's a lot more relaxing to play, but it's maintaining that tension all the way to the end, which is quite a challenge.
Andrew, I know that Helen's researched Berg quite thoroughly. I mean, how important is that to you, and do you think that that added to her performance tonight?
Of course, it is important to know as much about the piece as possible, the background of the piece, what the composer's thoughts were. But there's not only the scholarship, the sort of research of finding out the facts about a piece, there's also finding out about the emotional truth of a piece. And that, for example, I think could come more if one had heard maybe the late Mahler symphonies or even some Wagner, even Tristan. That's where that music comes from, even though it's a youthful piece. And I think it was a very difficult choice.
John, what was your impression of Helen's performance?
I was very impressed by her freshness and warmth and lack of any artificiality. I thought she had a very strong mind, and I particularly enjoyed the Berg. Of course, she needs a bit more development here and there, and she's a little bit inclined to hurry, but she's basically very authoritative and very convincing while she plays. That's quite a rare attribute.
So you see a player with lots of potential?
I do. I really do. I think with a bit more experience, she'll become even more authoritative, and that's quite a rare quality for any young artist, especially as young as that.
John, the next performer, Nicholas Hagen, he's playing just one piece, the Liszt Dante Sonata. Now, is that a high-risk strategy to throw everything just at one work?
It's a gamble, and I think it can work, assuming that piece of music has sufficient variety within it, and the Dante Sonata does have that.
Well, I chose the Liszt Dante Sonata because I wanted to do a larger scale work. It's a wonderful piece, it has wonderful melodies, wonderful tunes. It's a great showpiece.
Well, Nick, the Liszt Dante Sonata is infamous for making huge demands both technically and in terms of your stamina. It's a brave choice.
Oh, of course. It's you can't stop and think. It's demanding, and you can't stop. If you do, you'll fall apart. You have to keep going. A lot of the pieces are composed of octaves, which you have to practice more than anything else. I mean, if it was all loud octaves, then you'd probably be on the floor by the end of the piece. But like any great piece, it has contrast, it has wonderful quiet parts, and he provides those parts in the piece, otherwise it's not possible.
How do you keep the sense of direction or line going over such a long period of time? Because you're there at the keyboard and you can get very caught up with every bar, can't you?
Yeah, I find if you record yourself and listen to it back, you might think what you're doing is it sounds fine at the time, but when you listen to it, you realise that you're just doing it bar at a time and the line isn't coming out properly. If you imagine you're a singer and you imagine you're a singer singing the tune, you wouldn't stop after every bar or every phrase or whatever it is. You have to round them off at the end and make it like it's a song.
Nicholas appeared to be totally immersed in that performance, but did it have the qualities that you were looking for?
Well, I had contradictory views. A lot of it I liked very much. It was very dynamic and very expressive, and it really held the attention, especially in the quieter sections. But in the faster, louder sections, there was great need for more polish and experience.
Vanessa, what did you think of that performance? Do you think it was a gamble that paid off?
I think it probably did pay off for him, actually. I think, yeah, it certainly the work suits him. If he could just get to grips a little bit more with a bit more colour and a bit more finesse.
I think as a pianist you have to like the romantic music because there's so much of it and it is such great music to play. And I think Rachmaninoff is one of the best composers. I've just done a tour of Russia with a group of people from school, and I went to this town called Yaroslav and I played Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto with the Yaroslav Symphony Orchestra there, and that helped me a lot with Russian music. And I'm playing Ravel with this Rachmaninoff, and that's just a completely different piece. It's just so lacking in energy that it goes really well with it, because you can just sort of drain yourself completely in the Rachmaninoff, and then the Ravel's nice and relaxing and calm to play afterwards, which is good.
You're a great fan of 20th century music, which is great as far as I'm concerned. And you're playing two pieces by Eric Sweeney, Irish composer. Do you know him?
I kind of know him in a way, because I played one of his pieces in a competition in Dublin last year, and it was specially commissioned by him. And I wrote to him afterwards and asked if I could perform it in another place. And he wrote back and sent another piece of music as well, so I'm going to play both of them.
Alison built a very wide-ranging programme. Was there one piece that stood out more for you than the others, or were you equally convinced by all of them?
Well, I think it was a measure of her achievement that every piece was convincing in its own way. I particularly enjoyed the Ravel. I thought the sense of desolation and the way she handled the piano, which has sometimes proved troublesome tonight for some of the competitors, but she handled it with terrific poise and experience.
Vanessa, the Ravel's quite an elusive piece. Did she draw you into that own particular peculiar sound world that Ravel has?
Very much so. In fact, what was so impressive about her performance today, particularly of the Ravel, she really did capture the eerie atmosphere that that piece depicts, really such a tone picture, and how it changed her sound quality from the Rachmaninoff and again in the Sweeney. A very, very impressive performance all round.
So here now is a reminder of all of tonight's performers from a man who's also been concentrating on every single note here in the auditorium, the conductor, Charles Hazelwood.
Nathan Williamson from Suffolk got the evening off to an atmospheric start with Messiaen's The Kiss of the Christ Child. Ron Abramsky from Leicester played a contrasting programme of Haydn and Liszt. In her recital, Helen Reid from Leeds included a great 20th century piano work, Berg's First Sonata. Nicholas Hagen from London took on another great challenge, Liszt's infamous Dante Sonata. And Alison Farr from Bournemouth finished the evening with works by Rachmaninoff, Ravel and Eric Sweeney.
Charles, what struck me about the competition was the sheer professionalism of all the people taking part tonight.
I thought it was incredible, actually, from the very first moment when Nathan Williamson came on at the top of the concert to play that extraordinary piece of Messiaen, and he sat there and he just used that quality of silence, and then he just picked out those incredibly delicate chords. I thought, wow, such composure.
Well, in the quietness of the auditorium here, are you prepared to stick your neck out and say who you thought might be the winner tonight?
Yeah, without any doubt in my mind, it's Alison Farr. She's just completely away with it, I thought. The way that she had such composure in the Rachmaninoff, she wrought those incredibly tense moments of passion, and then at the same time, the lightly veiled traceries of sound which led us so beautifully into the Ravel, and then that incredibly exuberant and jivey performance in the two Sweeney pieces. She was a knockout. She's got all my money.
Well, in a few minutes, we'll find out whether the jury agrees with you. But have you ever thought about taking up the piano? Well, at this point each evening, as we wait for the results, a member of the jury will be talking about his or her particular instrument. Tonight, the piano with John Lill.
I think I was about 3 or 4, according to my mother, when I first picked out tunes on a friend's piano. I think it was the case that it seemed a more complete instrument to me in those days than any other. I've always been very fond of orchestral music, and the piano seemed to be as near in one instrument to an orchestra as you could imagine. You can walk onto the stage and give a recital just by yourself. You know, the buck stops with you. You are totally responsible. You don't have an accompanist. You don't have a page turner. It's just you and your instrument and your public. And I like that simplicity. I think it's more of a challenge, but it's also far more satisfying if you do it well. The modern concert grand is a very complicated device. It's basically a percussion machine. So it's essential not to make it sound too percussive in any case. There are a lot of pianists who play in a very hard manner, finger only. You can sometimes see the whites of their knuckles, you know, it's so intense. And it sounds very hard as well. But to play in a relaxed manner is vital, and that means playing with your whole body, especially your top half, you know. You must play with plenty of arm movement and back movement. And then you'll get a much better and a broader range of sound. Well, the marvellous thing about the piano is that the range is limitless. You know, it's so vast. It goes from the very serious to the humorous, to the light-hearted, to the tragic. I mean, every mood is encompassed, and more, that we find in life. I was passing some pub the other day and I heard the most marvellous piano playing coming out. It was all pub style, but it was really very, very good indeed. Some of these players are far better than some classical players. You know, it depends. And I remember myself, years and years ago, playing in old pubs and newer pubs when I was a kid to get some pocket money. It's all enforced good practice. You know, the same old sort of boogie-woogie. That sort of thing, you know. It can be entertaining. It doesn't have to be so profound all the time. Music has got such a very wide range, and that's one of the beauties of it. Well, I feel truly privileged to say a few words to you tonight after such a very, very exciting evening. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. And what a refreshing change it is that you get these individuals who think for themselves so strongly about music and can play it so marvellously well. I wish them all very well. They played extremely well throughout. We enjoyed the entire evening. When you get to this sort of standard of playing, you have to think about the aspect of inspiration, imagination, charisma, and something which really grips your concentration as a listener, something we can't quite put words to, something intangible, inspiration, in spirit, whatever you call it. So the unanimous verdict, since we have to give a first prize, is, I'm pleased to say, Alison Farr. But the other four pianists who were so impressive and gave highly polished professional performances deserve their prizes too. And here they are: Nathan Williamson, Ron Abramsky, Helen Reed, and Nicholas Hagen.
Well, an impressive start to the week, and tomorrow in the next of these Young Musicians events presented in association with Lloyds Bank, it's the turn of the percussionists. Hope you can join us. Until then, from all of us here in Bristol, a very good night and congratulations to all of those pianists who took part in tonight's competition, especially the winner, Alison Farr.
The second movement starts off more of a contrast. It's slower and you use a lot of rolls harmonically, stretches the boundaries, really. It's sort of bordering on atonality, so it's fascinating to listen to.
So Troy, what are you playing next?
The second piece of my program is Rebonds by Xenakis, to which this is the setup, and I really enjoy this. It's really intense, and Xenakis is a Greek composer. While I'm playing it, I try and think of the landscape, really. It's quite sort of stark, you know, in Greece, and I'm trying to sort of incorporate sort of theatrical side to it as well. It's very energetic.
Is there anything interesting particularly about the layout of these drums here?
Well, he uses 5 drums, 2 bongos, a low conga, a tom and bass drum. So you've got the whole range there. And then he uses 5 wood blocks or temple blocks. There's 6 here, but I'll only be using 5.
Does he make a great deal out of the contrast between the woodblock sound and the drum sound?
Yes. Actually, he rarely uses both together, which is interesting. They're usually blocks of just using the drums and then just the wood blocks.
I noticed that you're using, well, 2 things actually about the sticks. Firstly, that the ends are very hard wooden sticks, and also the incredible way you're holding them. You've got one pointing that way, one pointing that way in each hand. You need incredible dexterity to control both sticks in each hand.
Yeah, the technique I'm using in actual fact is called Stevens technique. I think it's probably one of the most flexible techniques because you can get very wide spans. It's very maneuverable. There's a saxophonist, famous jazz saxophonist, Cannibal Adderley. He's written a tune called Ease It, which is a blues. And I first heard it on an album, which I've got at home. And I liked so much the solo. It was improvised solo, so I transcribed it and learnt it. And I thought it'd be a good thing to play for this competition. It'd be something different.
Kevin, I'm going to start straight away with you. Was it a programme that impressed you?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, the last piece, I've just written down, great band. I mean, I really liked that. It was really nice. No, I thought the programme was great. And, you know, considering that one actually has to find pieces to play on percussion. I mean, you can't go to Mozart and Beethoven. So I thought it was really, really nice, and I thought the guy was fantastic.
I look forward to hearing him in 10 years' time as well. I think there's an awful lot of potential in him, and he played great now. But if he starts really working on his strengths, like his strengths were dynamics and sound, if he really now hones in on those strengths and squeezes even more out of those areas, then he's going to do fantastically, yeah.
I started when I was 12 years old, and when you're 12 it's very exciting to be able to pick things up so quickly and make so much noise with it, I guess, really. And I got enthusiastic about it and kept going with it.
Well, with regard to tonight's programme, how did you come to assemble the pieces?
I was looking for a varied programme, so I started with that idea in mind. I wanted to play as many instruments as I could. I'm going to start with El Dorado by Nero. That's written for vibraphone, cymbals and some percussion instruments, which is why I've chosen it so it's not just a vibraphone. Then I'm playing Wind in the Bamboo Grove by Keiko Abbey, which is also a bit interesting because you have to hit the marimba with the shafts of the sticks, making a clacking kind of sound, meant to be like the bamboo reeds.
Cold press, like so many other contemporary percussion pieces, you get this incredible load of technical explanation at the beginning and this thing called a setup. Can you explain once and for all what a setup is?
Setup is basically called a setup because we have to set it up ourselves. It's just the layout of how the instruments are set up, literally like that, as it is here.
So let's go through that now, starting with lower drum instruments.
Yeah,
and
these are tom-toms, snare drum, tambourine, bongos, cowbells, temple blocks, wood block, agogo bells, and the cymbals.
And certainly up at the top end here, it's very clearly demarcated in terms of pitch, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Try to take it up a pitch every time you go up, so it gets a kind of a vrat kind of sound. I've got the whole piece photocopied and put here so that it's like, because there's like 9 pages, so I have to get it all out on one stand so I can read it. But when I'm playing over here, it looks a bit funny if I'm sort of reading music over here. So for the bits that I'm a bit unsure of, I've got another music stand here so that I can follow it, and it looks a lot better to the audience as well.
Sounds a bit nightmarish and schizophrenic there. You know you're not going to turn in the wrong direction at the wrong moment.
Well, I have to choreograph for that myself. I have to make sure that I'm gonna do the right thing. That's just part of the learning of the piece, really.
Rachel, what was your impression then of Emma's playing?
Enjoyed it very much. I thought it got better as she went on. The last piece, I was really drawn into it for most of the piece. She sort of grabbed my attention, and she obviously enjoyed playing it, and actually made me want to go home and play the drums. So that was quite a good reaction. So it must have been good.
Paul, the score of the last piece that we heard, Cold Pressed, lots of adjectives like pungent, spicy, zesty. Did Emma bring out those qualities for you?
She can bring them out more. It might sound dramatic, but you've got to actually be prepared to die for every note. And she's got to find a direct line to communicate with us.
Technically, though, you thought that she was very good.
Oh, tops, yeah. Blimey.
I'd listen to all the drum tracks on the radio and the songs that were in the charts at the time, and I thought I really wanted to be able to play the drums like that.
Tell me about the 2 pieces you're going to play.
Well, the first one's The Love of l'Histoire by Charles Delancey, and it's based on The Soldier's Tale by Stravinsky. And it's actually based on all the music. It's not just based on the drum parts. So the setup's divided into 2 sections. There's the drum section and there's the sort of wood section with wood blocks and cowbell. And what generally happens is the drums act as the accompaniments, and they might be playing what the double bass or the trombone was playing, the ostinato bits. And the wood blocks would be playing some sort of approximation of the tune.
instruments aren't the same as the ones Stravinsky used. There's a lot more wood, there's no triangle or anything, and there's the sizzle cymbal, which is a completely alien sound to what Stravinsky would have used. It sounds like a tambourine roll. The way they do it is they get a very thin crash cymbal with holes around the outside where it's most resonant, and there's little bits of metal. They look a bit like sort of paper fasteners, and they rattle as you hit the cymbal. The Creston Concertino from marimba was the first piece of marimba and ensemble music. The thing which marks it apart from the other concertos is it's two sticks virtually all the way through. The first and third movements are entirely two-stick, and these days, because four-stick marimba solo music sort of come into its own, everyone uses that with the orchestra, but I think it's nice to just, like the old xylophone players would have done, write it all with two sticks. The middle movement, the piano has a bass part and a sort of counter melody. What the marimba plays isn't really a tune, it's very long, sustained chords to contrast the piano, which is very short. And that's when I'd use the four sticks, and that's all rolled quite slowly.
Can you show us some of those?
Yep. They don't need to be rolled very fast because it's such a resonant instrument, especially down the bottom.
Rachel, the Paul Creston concertina is one of the longest pieces that we've had tonight. Did it sustain your interest?
It was fine until the last movement, and then I thought, I fancy a change. But having said that, it was very confident and assured performance, and lovely. Again, everyone's made good sounds, and that particularly, I thought the overall sonority was very good on the marimba and the drums.
The first piece I liked very much. I thought that was a good piece, really nice. I thought he actually brought that off very well. The combination with the piano, especially in this concerto, I mean, I don't think it works at all. And one almost cancels out the other. It's really quite hard to hear, and I don't think it did him any favours having the piano accompaniment in that particular, concerto.
Yeah, I'm doing 2 marimba pieces, because marimba's my favourite instrument. The use of like 4 mallets, yeah, I think that's great. You can do chordal stuff which you couldn't do on a xylophone. You wouldn't get the same sort of mellowness, cheekiness as well. Well, I'm beginning of a little short piece for marimba. It's written by Rich O'Meara, and it's called Restless. I like it mostly because it gives that restless sort of feeling. It's quite fast, quite moving, and but short. And I think it keeps the audience on edge, keeps them watching.
Adrian, Ian Vine's Siri is quite a complex piece, not least because you've got to play alongside a tape. Do you find it a big challenge?
The tape's never wrong, and if you're wrong, then you're out, really. Keeping in time is very difficult, especially if you have problems hearing the tape. I have 2 monitors down here and here, which is just for me, and yeah, it's a bit of a challenge.
How do you start the piece? Is there a cue as the tape begins?
I don't come in until halfway through the first bar, and because there's no pulse, you can take your own time over it and just try and make the effects, really, so that's fine. And then when you come into the rhythmic section, you've got a few bars before you come in.
Well, Adrian, explain to us a bit about this setup you've got here.
Okay, well, we've got 2 orchestral bass drums here and here. Slightly different in pitch. Same with 2 different tom-toms. And 2 boobams.
2 what?
Boobams.
Boobams?
Yeah.
Long, thin...
Long, thin tom-toms, really. And 2 tam-tams. And 2 nipple gongs.
Why are they called nipple gongs?
final piece is Variations on Japanese Children's Songs by Keiko Abe. And that's quite a big work. That's about 7 minutes long, and a lot of concentration, especially memorization. You have to really think a lot through it. There's such a variety of things going on in it. A lot of the time at the bass end, but suddenly you have to run up to the top and do a bit up there and stuff. And there's like this gorgeous cadenza section, which really grows on you, I think, as you get to play it.
Paul, the Ian Vine piece, a work hot off the press, certainly impressed the audience. Did it impress you?
Yeah, it did. He took a chance. He took a chance there, and for me it paid off. And there were other sounds. It wasn't just hitting with sticks. He started off using his hand, sliding across the drum. So a new sound we haven't heard today. Nobody else has played the drum with a hand at all. And then he gets onto the tom-toms, and from the first bosh, you know, he's in there. And it was good. So the whole thing was scary.
The feel was beautiful. Thought it was flowing. I'm quite overwhelmed for a choice of words. I've just got fantastic, lovely touch, great feel. I think that his personality is such that he, I haven't got time to kind of come out to you, but I'll bring you in with me.
I always watched drummers in bands, musicals and so on, and that just attracted me. I played drum kit for a long time, and then decided I wanted to start percussion, broaden out, and really got into that heavily.
What approach did you adopt to choosing your program?
Right, whenever I'm trying to plan a program, there's several different lines of thought that you have to think about. First of all, you have to enjoy the music. That's the most important thing, because you have to, and it has to reflect your personality. So it's kind of, those two work in hand, because if you enjoy it, then it's obvious when you're performing it. Percussion is such a broad world. There's lots of different nationalities of music. The program has to reflect that. That's the idea of having a percussion recital, as far as I'm concerned, to show A, what you're capable of, and B, what's out there, because a lot of people don't realise that anyway.
One thing I'm interested to know is we've got 4 sticks here. Is there any danger of you getting yourself in a bit of a tangle between the blocks and the bongos and so on?
Well, actually, rather than making things more difficult, to an extent, it makes it more easy once you've got the technique sorted out. On the drums, the way the piece is written is that on the top bongo, you have a sort of ostinato rhythm going on that varies throughout the piece. So to keep each line on a separate limb is actually helps. Therefore, having 2 sticks helps, because then you can actually do that.
How about the wood blocks?
Yeah, with the wood blocks, again, there's a section where he asks you to roll on one wood block whilst, you're having this ostinato on the top wood block. There's several, if you were just using one stick, you'd be forced to do it like that. And that, I mean, that's a pretty tight sort of sound, and to get a better sound, you can either roll like that, or like that. Then I move on to the ethnic drum. It's purely slide drum. It's kind of where multi-percussion starts. It explores Scottish drumming rhythms. It explores Latin American styles. And the Latin American theme leads on nicely to the Rosario, the marimba concerto.
Rachel, it was a very rich, well-mixed programme. How successful do you think Magnus was in sort of steering his way around through it?
I thought it started excellently. Really enjoyed the first piece, and I thought he brought that to life, and the marimba playing was superb. There's an Arcus I was a bit disappointed with, because I think he could have had more insistency, he could have kept my attention a bit better.
The bamboo I write here, I thought he brought that off really, really well. I thought that was really successful, musicality, just nice touch, and a lot of artistry there, and I really like that. You know, we're speaking on these kind of levels now, and I mean, the guy is wonderful.
Well, now, our jurors are about to leave for their deliberations, so here now, once again, is Charles Hazelwood with a reminder of who played what in tonight's finals.
Troy Miller from Wootton took us from Japanese music to jazz. Emma Brodie from Carnock in Fife explored some large-scale multi-percussion setups. The Love of l'Histoire was one of 2 contrasting pieces played by Andrew Cotty from Maidstone. And Adrian Spilett from Shrewsbury conjured a whole range of sounds in Ian Vine's new work, Siri. Magnus Mehta of Abbots Langley ended in Latin American mood.
Charles, we've seen a wonderful array of percussion instruments on the stage here tonight.
Hasn't it just been fantastic? A shining array of sounds. And for me, the pieces I enjoyed least were the ones accompanied by the piano, because the piano just sounds so dead in comparison.
Well, you got off to a flying start last night. You picked the winner. Do you feel as confident tonight?
Actually, I don't, Stephanie. I'm feeling a little bit wobbly. I mean, I can only speak for myself as a musician, one musician amongst many, and everybody watching this programme, being that percussion is so diverse, will have their own view, I'm sure. But for me, the one piece that spoke was Cold Press, played by Emma Brodie. Incredibly raw, animalistic, vital, and very sexy.
Well, we'll find out in a few minutes. But now to the second of our mini-features on some of the instruments that we'll be hearing throughout the week. The chairman of tonight's jury, Paul Clarvis, gives us his personal view on the wonderful world of percussion.
The great thing about percussion is the moods that you can create. So many different emotions and feelings. Start with getting your favourite record and have a listen to what's going on in that record. Have a listen to the song that's going on, and then you might pick up that if you're interested in the drums, that the drummer's playing something that fits with that song. Learn the music you're playing. It doesn't mean just learning the drum part, it means learning the whole song. Learn to sing. Shepherd's Bush. We have to sing what we're about to play. Basically, if I turned up on a gig and I'd forgotten my kit, I would sing my part. If I just hit that drum without thinking about it, I'm not going to make the sound that I'm picturing in my head. I actually think about it. I think dot b dot 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 b dot. When you learn from the beginning, we don't want to separate these from these. There are as many sounds on a drum as there are in here. What you're hearing in here is what's going to come out of the drum. I check out different cultures to find out different ways of playing, how other people might approach it. I'm from Enfield, so I play music from Enfield. It's been influenced by music from all over the world, but basically I'm playing from all these different influences. Nothing at all is a substitute for getting to a gig and seeing people doing it and feeling the air move, smelling the music. Get involved. We've been absolutely knocked out by the standard, the technical ability and what everyone can play. We were looking for someone that would perhaps bring a little bit more than just technical ability and would actually deliver some music to us and communicate. And the winner is Adrian Spilett. We'd also like to get everybody else that's participated up. Troy Miller. Emma Brodie. A lot of Northerners in tonight, I think. Andrew Cotty and Magnus Mehta.
So there we are. Adrian Spilett will join Alison Farr in the final concert on Sunday. We'll all be here again tomorrow night for the next of these Young Musicians events supported by Lloyds Bank. So do join me when you can hear 5 gifted string players, a violinist, a viola player, 2 cellists and a double bass player. In the meantime, we leave you with another glimpse of Adrian Spillett. But from all of us here in Bristol, a very good night.
This is Ian Vine, yeah? He's a wicked composer. Wow, on him.